pjnet.tv. It is 9:30 on the East Coast of the United States, and it is time for part two. We have our guest waiting in the green room. We are running a bumper. We are recording. We are streaming to 9 social media destinations, and we will count down to Studio 8 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back and good evening. This is pjnet.tv. If you are watching this on YouTube or many of the Facebook and Twitter profiles that allow us to stream onto them, or maybe you're watching this on, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, great. I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much. We hope that you enjoy it. I would like to invite you to the personal fellowship that is going on right now at pjnet.tv. It is our live chat room, and you will meet some wonderful friends there, and you can watch the same content you're watching right now where you're at, or if you want to stay where you're at, that's cool too. Thank you, all of you in the pjnet.tv chat room. You make my day. You make my life difficult keeping up with all of the chat while I'm producing and while I'm hosting, while I'm engineering, and otherwise goofing off. Folks, normally I know you all came here to see Michelle Medlock Adams. Well, she's traveling, and about now she is arriving at her destination, so she thought it would be a great idea to share with us a friend of hers who has been a big part of her life. I found out just now that they are not childhood friends, but anyway, Barbie Porter and her husband Ralph are here. Now, there's more to this story, folks, than here's somebody that Michelle knows. Barbie, you have had a business relationship, a personal relationship, and a spiritual relationship with Missy. And it's a little deeper than just seeing each other at various functions. Go back and tell us how you and Michelle and Missy, how your lives intersected.
Actually, when I got hired in at the Times-Mail newspaper in Bedford, Indiana, she was on her way out. So we didn't really work together at the newspaper, but we started working together outside of that. And she helped me to go to my very first women's conference, or not women's conference, but writers' conference in Glorieta, New Mexico. And she also helped me. She was an encourager for my children's book that I did, The Legend of the Christmas Kiss. And she also put one of my stories in her very first compilation book with Gina Maselli, The Divine Stories of Yahweh Sisterhood. And along the way, I became acquainted with her sister, and her sister, Marty, and I have become really close friends too. And they're just a wonderful family. And whenever Missy's mama was very ill and Missy was still living in Texas, I would go check on her mother and her sister every day and give reports to her and things like that. And I had the honor and the privilege of writing the story in the newspaper because her family was very well loved in that area, and given that honor. And we've just been close. She's a wonderful, amazing, and she's real. That's just the way she is.
She's very much. Now, Michelle has been an outstanding publisher of books and has done so well for herself. And you have had your own books, but God has led you and your husband Ralph into something that is very different from most of the people that we have up here on pjnet.tv. You all are very focused on ministry, but your books have an interesting place in that ministry.
That's correct. I'm currently working on books for the ministries that we work with, and they'll be children's books. So we work with a Haiti Christian mission. It's called Missions of Love. And so I'm working a little story that's called Journey to Jolie Vert. And the main character is Jolie, a donkey from Jolie Vert. And he tells the story of how the mission came to be. And then I'm also working on another book for another mission that we serve with called Kentucky Mountain Mission. and they have what's called Youth Haven Bible Camp. And my husband Ralph grew up there, spending his summers there. His dad was on the board. And there was a wonderful person there named Preacher Bill. And he had two puppets. They were called Henry and Homer. And he would go to the schools and he would take Henry and Homer and he would present the gospel message with the themes from the school, like no bullying. And he would tell about the story of David and Goliath and things like that. And then, entice the children to come to camp during the summer. And he passed away just a year or so ago, maybe two now. And so I'm writing a book called The Adventures of Preacher Bill with Henry and Homer. And both of those books, all the proceeds will go to those missions specifically to help them.
Now, this
Yeah.
is not something unusual. So many authors and writers, appear here and say that they want their book to reach a larger audience than they could ever reach. But you repurpose the revenues of your books for something else.
Right. The one for Missions of Love, when it gets published, all the revenues will go towards the Haitian salaries. We have a Haitian staff, and so it will go for that. And then the revenue from Kentucky Mountain Mission will help children to go to camp during the summer.
Now, we were speaking earlier today. You're involved in the Shriners somehow up in Chicago. Is that right?
Well, I'm actually not involved per se. I did a feature article several years ago on a young lady named Bailey Wayman. And I was able to travel with her several times as she went to Chicago to prepare for a surgery. And they allowed us to be there at the time of surgery. We weren't allowed in the surgery room, of course, but right afterwards we were in there, did the entire story. The story went AP, Associated Press, and then the photographer, Rich Jansrip, he does a fantastic job. He actually won awards for that story. And so through that, I met the Shriners, the drivers, and the Shriner people, and they were so amazing and so sweet and loving to these children. So I started writing a story called Why Bucky Wears a Funny Hat. And at the time, I presented it to a couple of different Shriners organizations, and they truly loved it. But they said, we can't take our funds away from what we do with the children. And so what I'm trying to do now is find someone who will publish this book, then do it pro bono or something, so that every child who goes into the Shriners Hospital now will receive a copy of this little book. So it gives them a fun little book of what the Shriners do for the children while they're there. And it kind of tells the story of the Shriners, how they do their little circus and bring it and things like that.
Barbie, I just kind of get the impression that you just meet people and make friends everywhere you go. Uh, you've been a lot of places and you've met some very interesting people, and one of them is beside you.
Yes. He is my heartbeat outside of Jesus Christ. He's been one of the biggest blessings in my
And you grew up with him, I guess, too, right?
life. No, I did not. I met him through the Times Mail newspaper when I was working there. I was the faith feature writer at the time, and I was doing feature stories on mission trips. And I had two already in the queue that I was ready to do. And working at the paper, they like you to have three. And I thought, what could I do for this third story? So I knew his sisters, but I didn't know him. I'd never met him. And they had invited me to lunch one day, and we were talking. And I was telling about what I was doing. They said, "Oh, you know what? Our little brother Ralph, he's getting ready to go to Haiti, and he's going to be there an entire month. And we're not going to be able to talk to him or anything. It's on the heels of three hurricanes. He's supposed to go there and help. It's going to turn into humanitarian aid, and we're just praying for him so hard." And I said, "That's the story. What do we do when our little mission trip that we know may be dangerous or may be harmful, or you just can't have contact with them?" And so I said, "Can I do your story?" And they said, "Yes." So I had my note pen, my notepad pad, and I, from there I had to find out where Ralph was going in Haiti and the name of his mission and things like that. And that's how we met. And after he came back from Haiti, his sisters had sent him a copy of the article, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to be in town."
I'm going to briefly just turn off her camera in hopes that we can recapture the audio coming. It's kind of coming and going. And let's see if we can bring her back. Well, there they are. A nice picture there. There's Barbie on the left and there's Ralph on the right. I don't know if Barbie and Ralph can hear me right now. But if you can, it's kind of froze up. So I can't hear you, nor can I see you. And what I'll do is circle up and give it a little break. And we'll be back in just a few minutes if we can reestablish that. Stand by. Where we'll just kind of pick up where we left off. It's that's Barbie on the left and that's Ralph on the right. You now you weren't on some man hunting thing to go find a husband. You were a reporter, right?
Right.
Going to Haiti, just doing your job, and you notice this champion of humanitarian aid. Now, Ralph, you are an electrician by trade. Is that correct?
Yes.
You command the electrons, or do they command you?
Well, depends on where, if my hand's away from the screwdriver long enough or not.
I have done some work internationally. I've never been to Haiti. I have been to the Dominican Republic, which is on the same island. In fact, I was only 7 miles from the Haiti border. But not only there, but in a lot of these Caribbean islands and countries, standards are a little different down there, aren't they?
Yeah, they're quite a bit, and it took me years to get used to it. You need one little part, and you just couldn't get that little part.
And you improvise.
But I found, like we work with Dr. Johnson, it's a medical mission. And my first trip, I wondered, what does an electrician, a maintenance man, doing working with a doctor? But I found out real quick, like doctors need electricians. They need electricity. They need water. They need a lot of things they can't provide for themselves, but men like us can.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well,
very,
one of the things that I noticed in working internationally is things are very different there. Most of the time in these little island nations, the government is, well, let's just say basically corrupt. Okay, and so I remember so well going into Colombia. We had a bunch of drugs that were expired here in the United States. So we were taking drugs into Colombia. And I remember waiting, we were getting in line there at customs. And all of a sudden, the customs agent comes over and pulls us over to the side and just scoots us just around everything. And I just said, well, thank you, Lord. And then the missionary later said, no, that wasn't the Lord. We bribed the customs official so y'all could get through. And that's the way things are done. It's just, did you experience any of that?
yeah, it hurts. And guns and stuff in the country. They take it away from you or charge you so much. It makes it hard to bring it in.
Yeah, I remember we were doing disaster relief in Jamaica, and I'm not singling them out because many of them they all do the same thing. So we're sending all these materials down there, and it's sitting at the dock because the government has just decided to place a 100% tariff on imported goods. Never mind that it's humanitarian aid, so it had been paid for in the United States, and then we had to pay it again. The full price of the darn stuff coming across to the government. And, we found ourselves, we always had cars that were like newer than 2 years old, which is very rare in these countries. Most cars are falling apart. And we would get stopped by the police all the time, but the missionary knows you just hand them, 20, the equivalent of $20, and then they just come on through. It's a mess.
It is.
Barbie, 3 missions that you're focused on. The one in Haiti. Now, tell us more about the mission there. I think it's a dental thing.
Actually, it's called Missions of Love. It's a Haiti Christian mission, and it was founded in 1991 by Dr. Robert Johnson and his wife Betty as a medical mission. He was a general practitioner here in Hartford, Kentucky. His wife was a nurse, a head nurse. They had gone there on a mission trip, just kind of like we did, fell in love with the people and felt called to go. And so they started this under just a little cluster of palm trees and sleeping outside when they began there. And but as time went on and things evolved, and people like Ralph would come, they would help them with building and putting in the electrical and the plumbing and things like that. And now the mission has been there since 1991 and has a wonderful clinic that is Haitian run, and it's open on a daily basis. They also have a safe water program that's there. They help with lots of education for the community and things like that also. And we've sent hundreds of children to school over the years, but also we just graduated our 3rd doctor, and we've graduated 7 nurses and several technicians, and even had a dental assistant who recently graduated. And now we're in the process of hiring a Haitian dentist, because the vision and the dream of Missions of Love is to not have it be an American-run mission, but to have it run, by its own people, to help them. And the funny thing is, Ralph, he's an electrician and a contractor, and he can build. And, I was just a writer and did administrative work. But we learned about, being able to do some dental. And that was the only part that was really missing from the mission, was the dental world. We had the other aspects of the medical world, but Dr. Bob, he would cry. We would go in there, and he would have patients who had abscessed teeth out to the outside of their faces and their heads swollen. And one time we were there, it was after the earthquake, and there was a big team, and he came up the hill and he was very sad. And they're like, Dr. Bob, what is wrong? And he, with big tears in his eyes, he said, I just saw a young man with an abscess all the way out to the side of his head. I gave him antibiotic, I gave him pain meds.
Yeah.
But I can't do a thing for that tooth. And he's either going to go to a witch doctor and they'll use whatever they can and try to pull the tooth, and he'll probably die, or he's just going to die from the infection anyway, because there are no dentists in this area. So we remember that day. We got together, all of us in a circle, and we joined hands, and we prayed that God would bring dental to our Missions of Love in Jolivet, Haiti. We know that 2 years later, God would use us to do that. 2 people who had no connections with dental at all. And we went home, and about 4 months after that, we were working at Kentucky Mountain Mission. They had asked us to come help with a dental clinic. They do free dental clinics there twice a year, and we didn't know that. And Ralph's like, well, my drill's kind of big, but yeah, I'll come help, And
Ralph.
so, but they said, yeah. I crack up every time I think about that. And
I'll die.
No, there's we need carpenters, we need plumbers to keep these chairs running, and he can do that. They just trained me. So that night we go in and we're helping to set up all the tables, all the chairs, all the equipment, everything. And it was like 14 chairs lined up around this big gym. And the dental team was getting ready to arrive. They came from West Virginia and the Washington, D.C. area to come do this dental clinic there. And so anyways, I'm already in bed. And he burst in the room and he's so excited. And he turns on the light and he said, "You're not going to believe what I just saw in the gym." And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Portable dental equipment. We can take this to Haiti."
Wow.
And that did it. And in the process of the 2-year time window, we didn't just have portable equipment, but God made it a brick and mortar building in Haiti. And I learned how to do dental assisting. I know how to identify all of the dental equipment. I've learned how to do sterilization. He can set up any dental unit that we have. He gets them running with the air compressors and with the generator. And between us, when we go to these dental clinics, a lot of times we set them up ourselves. So it wasn't even a blip on the radar.
Well, Barbie, you and Ralph are an inspiration for all of us. And folks, if you have never considered international missions, I would encourage you to be open to that. I know that there's a lot of hurdles and obstacles that are in the way, but I faced those same obstacles and hurdles when I committed to go. I didn't know exactly how it's going to happen, but God did make a way. And the thing about going on an international trip is when you come back, you're just not the same. I mean, you want to just, you want to rip people's head off and just pour it down the stump of their neck. I don't know for sure who benefits the most from an international mission trip, the people you serve or you.
Yeah, I think we do.
I think you do, Bob, Ralph. I really do. And but thank you both for one, your inspiration. You live in Kentucky, but your heart is as big as the Montana sky, and God is using your hearts and your hands in a wonderful way, and it's just great to hear the report that you bring, and we encourage you to continue in every way. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being responsive, to the Holy Spirit. Quite a story. Thank you for sharing it.
Well, thank you for what you do and for letting us share our story.
We've enjoyed it. Appreciate it. Barbie and Ralph, her husband, who she met in Haiti on a mission trip, or she was on a work assignment, and what great people Michelle Medlock Adams has brought our way in her absence. So we always look forward to seeing Michelle, but when she's not able to be here, she always blesses us with wonderful guests like we just had, Barbie and Ralph. Folks, that's going to wrap it up tonight, and tonight is Wednesday night. Don't forget, we start on Thursday night, as we do Monday through Thursday, at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we look forward to seeing you then, and we will have, fun together. A lot of good things going on. I don't have time to bring you up to speed. Progress is being made on the pjnet.tv podcast platform. Progress is being made slow, but it is being made nonetheless. And it's going to get real busy around here tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. We're doing a lot of recording for a God and Country rally being held in Enterprise, Alabama, and pjnet.tv has been asked to go there and get the video footage and record the whole thing, and you know how we do. So we're having to pre-record a lot of the stuff because you know how travel is right now and getting together, and so it's going to get real busy. We're actually have a privilege tomorrow at about noontime. My wife's cousin, her husband is a pastor. They're from North Carolina, and they are visiting their family down here, and they were going to leave yesterday or the day before, but her husband called me and said that they would like to stay a little later, but he has this live Facebook thing that he does. That he's the pastor at that church, and he said, "Would it be okay if we use the Eagle Nest PJ Net studio?" And I said, "Absolutely." So he'll be here at 10:30 tomorrow morning, getting everything ready for his 12 o'clock broadcast, or 12:30, whatever time it is, on Facebook. So I'm just glad to know that God is using the resources that have been so cheerfully and bountifully made possible by all of you who support this ministry. That's as close as I'll get to asking for support on the air. Okay, we don't do that. Folks, it's time to go. I will leave you with 2 questions, and these are not for questions that I would like you to answer to me, but I hope you'll ask them to yourself. First question is, what is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And the second question, how long ago was that? Folks, you've just witnessed and heard the testimony of 2 people who have boldly gone into the mission field. If we are going to win, and if we are going to exalt the kingdom of God in the way that He has called us to make disciples, please, we can never allow ourselves to be satisfied with either answer.